Invite our next presenter, David Parker, to come to the front. He's going to be talking to us today about quite a challenging topic and the impact of genetics on the deaf community, and in particular what we understand to mean by deaf genes. So over to you, David.
Good afternoon. You aren't supposed to see that yet, so don't look. Good afternoon, my name is David Parker, and today I'm going to present to you about genetics. Many people have heard the word genetics or deaf genes, and so I like to explain what they are. I work at LTM Limited, which is similar in practice to IBM, and technology that I experience there really leads our lives. Because of technology, we are also more aware about what happens inside the human body. Jemina, would you mind please help? So genetics, from a scientific perspective, is the science of genes, heredity, and also the variation of organisms. Whether you're deaf, blind, have black hair, blonde hair, and so forth. There is also a medical perspective, which is the medical practice of diagnosing genetics. So quickly, let's look at the human body as an organism. So anywhere in our body, we can pick a cell. Our body is full of cells, and if we were to look at them under a microscope, we would then see that inside the cell there's a chromosome. Inside that chromosome, there are genes. Thousands and thousands of genes. Our cells actually have the responsibility of producing and helping our body to grow and develop, whether it be our heart, our hair, etc. Each cell has a different job. Chromosomes, we might ask what they are. In each cell in the human body, there are 46 chromosomes. And I'm going to use this sign today, because it's so hard to fingerspell all the time, I've just got a shot on it and make a sign. So we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So you will get, and if you are, each offspring will have, in that set of chromosomes, one from the mother and one from the father in each of those pairs of chromosomes. And that's passed on hereditarily through to the child. Not yet? Women also have two XX sex chromosomes, and men have an XY chromosome. And that's why women are a lot stronger than men, of course, but we all know that. The function of the genes is to produce proteins in the human body, and they help control and regulate the cells and help the cells to function appropriately. And if we didn't have them, then we'd turn to jelly, basically. You may have heard the word genome, which is really the map of all the genes that are found in the human body. And now they have technology that actually identifies and maps the human genome. So you can have a look at your own genome map, as it were. And genes are really responsible for passing on genetic mapping to offspring, to your children. And that's the role that genes play in the body. So whether you're deaf or blind, that can be passed on through families. And it's passed on through generations in some cases, from grandparents onto parents onto children. And that's the role of genes. DNA, the word there is deoxyribonucleic acid, which is such a big word in the interpreter got it, so that was okay. And that is found inside the cell. So we have the cell, which then houses the chromosomes, which houses genes, which is found on the DNA. And so we'll just talk briefly about what DNA does. It's very interesting because all living things have DNA, which is the same, but the differences are created by genes. So whether we're animals, plants, or humans, we have the same DNA. And so the last point there actually says that humans and chimps share about 95% of the same genes, which is quite interesting. Maybe I have a few more of those genes. If we look at deaf genetics, there are a lot of deaf genes that are found in the body. On chromosome 13, as you can see by this graph, connexin 26 is found on that. So we have 46 chromosomes in the body, and on one of those, we can find deaf genes. So we have 23 pairs on that 13. On pair number 13, it actually relates to the ear and its functions. But there are actually 120 independent genes that are related to deafness in some way. And you can have a look at that website there if you want to get some more information. And it's from Wikipedia, which I don't know doesn't always have a good reputation, but nevertheless I have used it. So here we have actually chromosome 13 and the possible mutations that can happen on that chromosome. And so it's some kind of damage. It doesn't mean therefore that I'm saying that deafness is a negative thing, but just having a look from a scientific perspective, they do talk about chromosome mutations. And so one of the first ones I have there is non-syndromic deafness, which means that a person is just deaf. They don't have any other disability as well. The second one is actually if you might have a deaf father and a deaf mother, and the father has a dominant gene that may be passed on to a child. So there's a 50% chance of that child being deaf. The third one is where people may have a recessive gene. They may not be deaf themselves, but they do carry a recessive gene. So if I was a father, if both parents were deaf and they had a recessive gene, they could produce a deaf child. If you have a hearing parents that have a recessive gene, they could also produce a deaf child as well. And the fourth one is Waardenburg syndrome. So they are deaf and they may also have some other syndromes, sometimes heart problems, sometimes a different colouring in the hair. Hereditary is actually the transfer from parent to child. So you know, if you have a big nose, you might have to blame it on your father because it was passed down to you through genetics. So this does happen. We have the word alleles here, which actually means that on one particular gene, you can have a variation or different forms of the gene. One good example is blood types. Some people may have A blood type, a B blood type, and so forth. And so, although they're the same gene, they are a variation that creates a different blood type. The dominant allele is represented by a capital letter, and the recessive allele is represented by a lowercase letter. So let's have a look at the diagram here. This is the recessive gene here, as you can see. You've got the mother and the father who are carriers. They could be deaf or hearing. It wouldn't matter, but they just carry that gene. And you need both of them to carry the gene to present the possibility of a child being deaf. So if both of them have that chromosome, there's a 25% chance of one of their children being deaf. So if you were to have 4 children, possibly one could be deaf. So genetics isn't always based on percentages, as we know. You know, you can't go to a genetic counsellor and say, will I have a deaf child? What are the percentages? What's the probability of that happening? It's very hard to put a percentage on it and say what will happen. It's really like a roll of the dice, and it's a chance. And so you can have a look at the probabilities or the chance of something happening, but a definitive answer could never be given. And we don't have the technology really to enable parents to get a definitive answer either. So it's thousands of genes and very impossible to actually give that direct answer. We also have this diagram here, and if you have a dominant chance, it's a 15 to 20% chance of a genetic deafness situation happening. If you have a recessive gene, there may be, I can't remember the exact percentage, about a 70% chance is part of deafness is passed on through inherited deafness rather than genetic deafness.
Now we'll discuss genetic testing, and this is a very big area and moving very quickly. How that process is conducted is they remove a particular cell and analyse the cell and look for particular mutations on the DNA within the gene. We're running out of time, so we might move on quickly here. Biotechnology is another important area, and Todd had talked about technology already. And biotechnology is focusing on tests within the body. And genetic engineering means making genes and making new genes or replacing genes with healthy genes. And that is now possible. And gene therapy, if they don't establish that there is a faulty gene, they may be able to replace it with a healthy gene in order to treat or prevent disease. Now looking at discussing genetic screening. What is possible now within the medical area is to conduct testing looking for possible mutations within particular genes, and if parents are concerned about passing on a particular disease or problem onto their children, they can screen for that and be advised of a particular percentage. If there's a problem on a particular chromosome, for example, they may be able to say there's 45% or a 50% chance of passing that on to the children. This, of course, is a big problem for the deaf community, or may have a negative impact on the deaf community. For example, if a woman can't have a child and has IVF, it is now possible for the doctor now to analyse the genes and say, well, you would like to have a baby, we can identify any mutations. For example, they can find what's wrong and advise the parents. And it's almost like selection. It's enabling people to say, well, I don't want that, but I would like this, and enable people to select the characteristics they would like. That may have a negative impact on the community that will reduce the size of the community. At the moment, scientific testing is being conducted within New South Wales on 6,000 primary school children just to see if they have this gene linked to deafness. We may move on now, we're running out of time. They have conducted some tests on animals and found that they are able to identify or find the deafness gene and cure that within animals, and may provide the same testing on humans in the future. What do we need to know for the future? The question is how that will impact on the deaf community. We need access to good information. We need access to all the medical information, everything to do with selection of genes. The concern is a reduction in diversity within the community, which will have a negative impact on the deaf community. Just in considering deaf genes, I've been obviously studying the area for quite a while, and you may be pleased to know I have found a tonic. You may be wondering what that is. Well, it's a tonic that will enable you to have a swig, and that will counteract the reduction within the deaf community, and hopefully it will enable the deaf community to re-establish itself in light of all this genetic screening. Thank you very much. Good luck to everyone, and thank you for allowing me to come and present today.
Wow. Who would have thought that you could make such a serious topic for the deaf community so amusing? I think we might have time for one very quick question. And I'm going to let Ian ask the question because, Todd, you've already had lots of chances
I'm not a professor, just remember that. I'd like to let you know I am not a professor, I'm not a doctor in this area. You were mentioning about the genetic testing on animals and they've identified a Jeff gene. Could you explain more about how that works? Well, that's in relation to gene therapy. What happens is they identify which gene the mutation is found on, and once they know that, they can put medicine in order to counteract that mutation. They may manage to make ears work around. Don't ask me how, I'm not aware of the actual medical process, but that's the genetic perspective.
Thank you, David. Fascinating presentation. I think you've raised many issues for us all to consider. And now we're on the home stretch, and this is when I get a chance to talk.